What happens when the toys you grew up with, those brightly colored boxes stacked on the shelves, those Christmas morning favorites, become the foundation of a billion-dollar company? And what happens when that company, built on nostalgia itself, nearly collapses? This is the story of Basic Fun, a toy company that bet big on memories, thrived off classics like Care Bears, Tonka, and Lite-Brite, and then almost lost it all when the retail landscape shifted under its feet. It's not just a story of toys. It's a story about the fragility of nostalgia, the collapse of retail giants like Toys R Us, and whether the past can really power the future. Basic Fun wasn't always called Basic Fun. In fact, the roots go back to 1991, when Basic Fun, Inc. was founded by Alan Dorfman. At the time, it was a smaller novelty toy business in Pennsylvania, known for licensing keychains and novelty items. The Good Stuff Corporation, founded by Sid Bannon in 1988, later acquired Basic Fun, Inc. in 2008. Meanwhile, Jay Foreman emerged later as central figure in what became Basic Fun's modern identity. Under Dorfman, Basic Fun was known for its breadth of novelty items, memorable keychains, and impulse buy pieces. Items that rode on licensing, retro appeal, and low price points. Over 1,000 license-based keychains and more than 65 million pieces sold worldwide attest to its early success. When the Good Stuff Corporation acquired Basic Fun Incorporation, Dorfman continued as president of Basic Fun, keeping its identity alive under a larger umbrella devoted to novelty and amusement products. Later, under leadership of Jay Foreman, CEO, the company adopted a strategy of roll-ups and brand revivals. The Bridge Direct, which Foreman founded in 2009, merged with Tech4Kids, purchased Good Stuff's Basic Fun division, and over time acquired or licensed many classic toy brands. Some of the key classic brands revived include Lite-Brite, the glowing pegboard that lit up childhood creativity, Lincoln Logs, classic wooden building logs evocative of simple tactile imagination, Care Bears, pastel plush characters teaching kindness and emotional awareness, Tonka trucks, the iconic rugged yellow trucks built for heavy play, Connects, snap-together rods and connectors, building up creative engineering play. Under Foreman's oversight, these revivals weren't just nostalgic relaunches. They were tailored to modern markets, updated packaging, sometimes licensing tie-ins, and broad distribution into big retailers and global markets. For Basic Fun, visibility was everything. Products needed to be seen. And in the toy world, nothing gave more exposure than the giant toy retailers, chief among them Toys R Us. At its height, Toys R Us accounted for a substantial portion of Basic Fun's annual sales. Estimates suggest around $35 million US, and helped put those classic brands front and center. A Lite-Brite sitting on a shelf at Toys R Us, Care Bears in plush sections, Tonka and rugged toy aisles, they were tangible memories made fresh. But in 2017/2018, when Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy and eventually shut almost all of its US stores, Basic Fun lost more than just a customer. It lost a stage. It lost a place where nostalgia collided with purchase impulse. Many toy makers lost big. For Basic Fun, the loss exposed how dependent it was on large retail partners. Losing Toys R Us was just the start. As markets evolved, Basic Fun faced a confluence of challenges. Global supply chain disruptions drove up costs for manufacturing, shipping, and raw materials. The COVID-19 pandemic, while boosting some sales in hands-on toys, puzzles, Kinects building kits, etc., also disrupted factories, delayed shipments, and created inventory mismatches. Consumer behavior was shifting. Digital entertainment, screens, video games, streaming competition increasingly ate into time and money families spent on physical toys. Nostalgia alone didn't guarantee purchase. Inflation, tariffs, and economic pressures squeezed margins tight. For a company with many licensed products, the licensing costs plus production complexities made the business vulnerable. By 2024, Basic Fun estimated its debts between $50 million and $100 million US in its Chapter 11 filing. It also listed dozens of creditors, many overseas, owed large sums for goods ordered or shipped. In June 2024, Basic Fun filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The goal: reorganize, restructure, secure financing to cover operations, keep vendors and licensors working, preserve product lines, and emerge leaner but alive. Leading this effort were Jay Foreman, CEO, supported by Frank McMahon, CFO. Foreman negotiated debtor-in-possession financing, roughly $50 million from Great Rock Capital, plus an additional $15 million from the Royal Bank of Canada and Basic Fun's founders. McMahon signed the petition, assuring vendors and licensors that operations would continue. The near collapse exposes a truth. Nostalgia drives emotional connection, but doesn't guarantee business resilience. Basic Fun found that while adults buy plush or retro items like Care Bears, Lite-Brite, Tonka trucks, or Lincoln Logs for emotional reasons, the new generation of children often expects digital interactivity, influencer culture, fast novelty, or engaging screen time. Nostalgic toys need to compete not just on memory, but on relevance, design, pricing, and access. Also, having licensing deals can mean paying fees and dealing with contract restrictions, which cut into profit margins. When costs rise, it becomes tougher to maintain both low price points and quality. But Basic Fun didn't quietly disappear. They fought back. Under Foreman, McDonald, and McMahon, the company structured the bankruptcy process to maintain core operations. They renegotiated debts, prioritized licensed brands with stronger sales, trimmed less profitable lines, and invested in marketing in newer channels, including e-commerce and influencer partnerships. Specific toy examples helped. K'NEX was acquired in 2018 and became a linchpin of their construction/STEM offerings. Care Bears relaunches and new packaging designs wooed both old fans and new consumers. Lite-Brite, with its glowing peg splash visuals, resurfaced in social media content and gift-oriented product assortments, gaining traction in retailers beyond toy aisles. Tonka trucks remained reliable for ruggedness and became popular gifts again. Specific toy examples helped. Also, the executive team made shifts. Foreman held firm as CEO, McMahon as CFO. Their leadership was visible in financial filings, public investor communications, and in steering the restructuring process. Their decisions kept licensors and vendors relatively calm, which often is the difference between total collapse and measured recovery. Basic Fun's story echoes those of other nostalgic toy retailers and brands that rose big, then fell hard. Zanny Brainy had educational charm and curated toys but couldn't compete with price, scale, and the advent of online shopping. KB Toys was all mall presence and impulse buys, but once foot traffic dropped and e-commerce rose, it couldn't adapt. Toys R Us was a symbol of childhood for many, but debt loads, online disruption, and supply chain issues eroded its foundation until it collapsed. What makes Basic Fun different so far is the leadership response. Foreman, McDonald, and McMahon saw the writing on the wall. Losing Toys R Us, supply chain pressures, shifting consumer habits, and took preemptive action. They restructured rather than hoping nostalgia would carry them. They diversified channels. They emphasized core brands that could sell under pressure. Those steps aren't guaranteed cures, but they give Basic Fun a fighting chance where others fell quietly. So here we are. Basic Fun, the little company with the big portfolio of childhood classics, has risen, stumbled, nearly fell, and is clawing its way back to life. It's not the biggest name in toys today, but in many ways it represents the heart of the industry. The belief that a toy is more than plastic and parts, it's a memory, a connection between generations. But here's the big question. Can that belief carry a company into the future? Or is nostalgia just a bridge to nowhere in an age of screens and instant digital entertainment? What do you think? Will Basic Fun's comeback last, or is it only buying time before another fall? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.